Thanks for visiting my channel. I am a recruiter, specifically a tech recruiter, and I feel like I've seen some changes in tech recruiting over this past week. Pretty suddenly and pretty big difference to me because I've been doing it for a while. So this is what the video is about. As a reminder, I have 4 to 5 years of experience in tech recruitment. I started off in San Francisco and then moved on to a national basis, mostly in California, Denver, New York, Arizona, and Washington State. I have dabbled in other industries like real estate recruiting. You'll hear about that more in an upcoming video, so be sure to subscribe. But let's talk about what tech recruitment was like before COVID and the past few weeks.
Let's get back to work.
Get back to work.
America is back to work.
But let's talk about tech recruitment over the past 5 years. Recruiting for any industry, you'll generally have 3 levels of candidates. Strong candidates that can get jobs basically anywhere because they have good experience, good education, or good companies on their resume. Mid-level candidates who maybe they perform mid-level, they have not so great names, or they don't have education at all with another factor. Or bottom tier candidates, the people who are using tools that are not in high demand, they have short tenures, or generally are difficult to work with. There's a lot of factors that will rank the quality of candidates, but in tech there is another factor. You have highest tech, cutting edge stuff coming out. You have tech that's newly adapted in the industry, and legacy tech. And it is the types of tech that determine the demand and need for that position. If you are a in-demand engineer, you're the top quality and you're using the newest tech, you can expect to get messages, emails, phone calls, and texts from recruiters, hiring managers, CEOs, and anyone out there looking for someone like you. You get a lot of outreach from people who hire for a living, and you probably haven't applied to a job in several years. Every time you look for a job, you have multiple job offers to pick from, and you're able to increase your final salary offer or get extra sign-on bonuses just for you to take the job. Even mid-level candidates working on newly adapted tech, or they have an aspect that makes them not a high-quality candidate, these people have still been highly sought after. They, again, do not need to apply for jobs and get people messaging them about job opportunities on a regular basis. And of course, these candidates are able to negotiate higher salaries at the offer stage with possible sign-on offers. Even the lower quality candidates, either they have multiple issues making them a low quality performer, or they're working with really old tech and other issues. Generally speaking, these people still made more money than other people in other industries with the same experience level. They still had people messaging them about jobs, and their response rate when they applied to jobs was better than most people in other industries. I've worked mostly as a third-party recruiter, so that means that companies really need to hire because they need to pay a fee that is tens of thousands of dollars. And the top reason companies can't hire quick enough is that they have too high expectation, too low salary, or too old of tech. The people most tech recruiters make the most money with is startups. They need to hire quickly. They're not able to build out a recruitment team, and they have to rely on the third party. Generally speaking, people with millions of dollars in funding that will get funding pretty soon after are willing to pay the big bucks for the right people. But there is also money to be made in companies with the newly adapted tech. I'm thinking companies like Gap or Capital One. These people still had to act just like startups, sometimes seeking outside help, but mostly competing heavily with salaries. Even the companies like Oracle, using older technology, or consultancy companies, still had to find alternative ways to hire people, particularly Oracle hiring people who may not have good job tenure or have another aspect like personality issues that would make them a not good candidate for other companies. Back then, it was hard to hire managers that knew how to code. It was hard to hire director or VP level that had hands-on experience with new tech or newly adapted tech. And the only way to hire good senior to principal level engineers was to pay them a lot of money, give them a lot of stock, or give them a sign-on bonus. Even back then, there were not a ton of junior level jobs, but there was a lot of opportunity for internships to turn into full-time jobs, or well-connected people coming from well-known schools given a chance right out the gate. And me as a recruiter, every single day I'm doing outbound messaging between 20 to 100 messages a day with a response rate between 15 to 30%, and 30% is pretty good. Like I said, I focus mostly on startups or big corporate companies I knew had difficulty hiring for high-tech or newly adopted tech roles. Almost every single candidate I place, I had to find myself. I could never rely on applicants. And almost every person that I place, I had to increase the job offer either on the base salary or with a sign-on bonus just to get the person to take the job. But the reason I'm making this video, it seems like things are changing in the tech industry, and honestly it seems to just happen all this week. I don't know why it's hitting me now, but I wanted to make this video. I have never had so many qualified applicants in my email box. I have been spending most of my day either scheduling interviews, talking to these candidates, or rejecting the unqualified ones, but it is the first time in my entire time working in recruitment that I've had so many qualified applicants. My response rate is through the roof. One day I only had enough time to send 10 outbound messages and I still got 7 replies. That's 70%. And that percentage lasted through the week. I'm seeing a few ex-VP, director, or CEOs from startups on the job market and people who were managers in the past applying for individual contributor roles. I've gotten several messages that sound a bit like this. Sorry, I haven't replied to your job message, April, that you sent me weeks ago, but now I'm on the job search again suddenly with everyone else the same week messaging you if the job is still open. Yes, the job is still open. Please message me if you work with Java. But I'm also seeing a ton of candidates on the market who have short tenures. What do I consider short tenure? Well, previously in the tech industry, people excused 3 to 4 month tenures at companies for startups not being a good fit, or even short tenures as long as a year because startups, sometimes they don't work out. Also in the mix are contract workers, people who work only a year at a time at these companies, and in the past, those kinds of tenures were excused as a part of the industry. But it seems like a lot of people are receiving a backlash to short tenures on the resume. I'm seeing a ton of people who have 3 to 4 month roles at companies and several roles that they only spent 1 year in. Definitely an increase from the past as these people are applying to jobs they are not qualified for. Heard several candidates say specifically they're looking for a more stable job at a company. You can see the difference in the candidate behavior by seniority. People who are senior engineer and above to management or director are being a bit more agreeable. Generally they are, but when it comes to the job search, they're being a bit more flexible with their salary ranges, bit less demanding about remote, and a bit more willing to accept a job offer that may come below their target salary. People that have 0 to 5 or 7 years of experience, sometimes even 10 years of experience, these people think that they're hot stuff. They're still campaigning, for the rest of Americans to get increased salary by constantly asking for above market salaries. They are still scoffing at companies that don't offer full-time remote, and they are expecting 100K in stocks. Of the types of people I'm seeing the most on the job market, to be honest, UX, UI, product, and marketing, which shouldn't be too surprising if you are subscribed to my channel. You've been seeing my layoff videos like I mentioned, and I'm seeing a lot of marketing, e-com, and consumer companies laying off. Also, a ton of people in the real estate industry are on the job market. That shouldn't be too surprising, and I talk about that more in another video, so hopefully I'll have a link somewhere here for you. But generally speaking, when I target one company to see how many people in their company are applying to jobs, sometimes it's as many as 50% of the company. It does seem like an increase from the past, as this is something I've looked at for years. So you're probably hearing that the job market is changing. And yeah, it is changing. I've never had so many candidates accept an offer lower than the one that they had wanted than I have in the past few weeks. So how can you, my loyal subscribers, weather through these hard times? First off, I do have to talk about people who need work authorization in the US. There are a ton of people who have OPT visa on the job market right now, and it's pretty obvious that there's way more candidates who will be applying for an H-1B in 3 years than there are H-1Bs available. I'm going to do another video about this soon, but generally speaking, there are 100,000 H-1B visas that people can apply to each year. It is the OPT visa holder, the student visa holder applying for these visas. 3 years after graduation, they have to get new work authorization. To get sponsored for H-1B visa, they need to work for a company full-time. That company needs to accept the sponsorship of that person. It can be 5 to 10 grand, but the US only lets the company sponsor so many people a year, so the company has to be willing to risk one of their Uno cards on that candidate by giving them the H-1B visa. But like I had said, there's a lot more candidates with an OPT visa than there are H-1B visas to apply for. When I see candidates who have several contract roles and I can tell they are probably on an OPT visa, they have a master's degree in the US with their bachelor's from an international university, and they have been contracting for years. They might be doing a corp-to-corp setup with their own personal business, but that's not good for someone who wants a job at a company later on in their career. I'm going to see several one-year roles on your resume, and I will automatically disqualify you for someone that can't keep a job, even if they are contract. People take contracts for a reason, and if your reason for taking a contract is because you don't have work authorization in the US, well, my advice to you is to, unfortunately, consider work opportunities outside the US. I don't think this problem is going to change anytime soon. I talked to a candidate who has an H-1B visa, simply needs to transfer it to a new employer. Well, I know that in the past it took 1 to 2 months to transfer a visa to a new employer, which is something that employers can accept even if they're hiring quickly. But now the wait time is 5 to 6 months and sometimes longer. So companies who are usually willing to handle visa transfers are no longer accepting it for some roles. And I hate to say, but more than half the companies out there will not even consider a candidate on OPT visa because they risk losing the employee. Yes, employers want you to stay with them for longer than 3 years. So they're going to hire you right out of college unless they are a company that is okay with losing you in a year or two. One of my candidates said that of the 10 HR phone screens he scheduled. Now keep in mind, your resume is being considered for a lot of jobs before you get considered for a phone interview. And out of the 10 phone interviews, he said half of them automatically disqualified him based on his work authorization, his visa status. And of the 5, only 2 would move forward knowing the wait time on the visa transfer process. That is a terrible percentage. From the HR screen to the second interview, you want to have over 50%. So obviously it is a much harder job market for people who need work authorization in the US than anyone else. And if that's you, like I said, consider work in Canada, possibly Europe, or go to your home country and establish a small business there. But there is not a ton of opportunity in the US tech market in the next few months. Now, for those who don't have the complication of work authorization, I would say now is the time to be polite to recruiters, to humble your expectations, and to be more flexible. I'm a remote worker, so I can't talk too bad about remote, but set your limits now. If you refuse to take anything but remote, put that on your resume, put that on your LinkedIn, put it on any social networking site that might be business oriented. If you are not set on remote, let people know that you are flexible. Consider the possibility of relocation. I know that's a dirty word, but the job market is going to be a bit more tight. You're going to have a lot of startup VP directors and CEOs applying to senior level or up jobs. You're going to have a lot of senior engineers with the high-tech technology falling back to what they would consider older tech for more stable jobs with more stable companies. Well, that just increases the competition in what was normally a low competition market. And people more senior in their career simply don't have the habit that you would need to get a job in this market. By that, I mean, if you want to get a job right now, go apply to jobs. I know it's been a while if you work in tech that you've applied to jobs, but go apply to jobs. Practice coding challenges, practice interviews, have other people look at your resume and review it. Know that if you work with third-party recruiters that there is a fee associated with hiring you, and that can detract from your candidacy because it makes you more expensive. But please do not act like you're hot stuff. Some people in tech will always be in demand because they're working on the highest technology, they have great backgrounds, or generally are great employees. But if that is not you, I hope you take some of that advice. If you are more junior in your career, I really do feel bad for you. This could be one of the worst times to try to be an entry-level person in the computer science industry. I haven't seen a junior engineer role in months and personally haven't hired someone junior since before COVID. It can be tempting in these times when no one is responding to your applications to stick with a waiter, barista, cashier role, but please find a way to be in the tech industry. Take a tech support role, a help desk role, a QA role. Not only do you want to have a tech company on your resume, but that is your chance to network with other people for other positions, get promoted within the company, or just generally gain more skills in the industry. This may also be a time to have a day job and a night job that actually pays the bills. I know a lot of people at all levels in the tech industry will get mad at me for saying this, but this could be a time to consider lower paid part-time or unpaid work. And again, I'm a tech recruiter, so I'm seeing this way earlier than anyone else. I think 6 months from now, other people will agree with me and say that things started to pop in tech around June, but I'm not saying that things are collapsing now. The title may say something about a tech bubble pop, but I think this is just the needle touching the balloon. We have a lot of changes coming, especially as more and more people increase the unemployment rates. If you are a job seeker, someone laid off, or someone just trying to keep up with the changes in the tech industry, please subscribe to my channel. I'm going to keep doing these videos about the tech industry and its changes, as well as changes in the hiring environment. The work and hiring industry was changing massively before COVID, and COVID just shook it up even crazier. Thanks for subscribing to my channel and checking out this video. I'll see you in the next one.